Hello, everyone. I hope you can all hear us well. I must say I've never had such an awful headset, but this is a gift from the team, so I'll keep it for today. Hello, everyone. I'm Thibaut Meunier, co-founder and CEO of Numberly, a data marketing expert, and it's an absolute pleasure to welcome you all today for this first webinar of our 2022 season. Because by French standards, it's still time for it, I would like to take advantage of this moment to still wish you all a joyful, cheerful, fulfilling year with great health and fantastic moments of inspiration. Hopefully some of them with us during our great webinars today. We have a huge audience coming from everywhere, from the US, even some French Guyana, Europe, French Reunion. Thank you all for being so numerous to be connected. I think it's close to 500 people we have today. So to kick off our webinar season, we picked the most discussed topic over the past 2 years. Of course, it's health. But don't worry, we won't talk of the pandemic, or almost not. We wanted to talk today about data and health, because data is priceless for all industries, and maybe especially for the health industry. Data is key because it allows to segment, to target, to understand, to measure, to generate insights, to progress overall. But data is highly regulated, and it's of course critical. We all want it to be even more regulated and protected in the health space. So how can we solve this dilemma of more data with more control? Well, this is why we put together the best possible panel in the industry for you today. We will have the pleasure to listen today to 4 amazing experts in their field. First, Nuria Perez Cullell. Nuria, you are CEO of Pierre Fabre Dermo-Cosmetics. You're an inspirational leader. You hold a PhD in pharmacy, but you're an expert in marketing. You come from Spain, but you live in France. You're a true bicultural person and an accomplished long-distance runner, I've heard. So who else could we invite? Nuria, thank you so much for being with us today. Next comes Matthieu Jusserand. Matthieu, you've been with Merck for a number of years. Before that, you were, I think, with Carlson Wagonlit, and during one of our webinars last year with Hubert Joly, you even chat with your former CEO 20-something years ago. You're an expert, Matthieu, in the pharma space as Global Executive Director of Global Digital Marketing Operations. You have a unique perspective on global pharma. You were in New York for years, and now you're back in Paris. Thank you so much, Matthieu. It's a pleasure to have you. Then we have Benjamin Delamare. You are Customer Engagement Analytics at the Janssen Pharmaceutical companies of J&J for EMEA. You have a very cross-industry perspective, since you were at Valeo, then MSD, then Bayer before, and now at Janssen. You have a very global vision, and we are looking forward to hearing your points on this critical topic. And last, it's a pleasure to welcome my friend Eric Carreel. Eric, founder of Withings. We needed one entrepreneur here. We have the best one we could think of on the health space. Eric, you founded Withings, then Sculteo, Invoxia, Zoov. It's just a spectacular track record for an entrepreneur. You sold Withings, you bought it back, which is absolutely remarkable. You have a unique view on IoT in the health space. We are so happy to have you, Eric, with us today. So thank you all, and let's really kick off. I just wanted to introduce you our health expert, Mr. Loïc Baudin. Welcome, Loïc, and Estelle. Thank you for being with us. Estelle, you're our specialist for health, so please interrupt me every time I say something stupid, which will start very soon, because we wanted to touch on the ecosystem of the health industry. It's a very special ecosystem, right? We have so many different stakeholders serving the patients and the consumers, obviously. So as you can see on this chart, we have obviously the health and social care, the different companies involved, the policymakers, obviously research is key here, funders as well, and we have the third sector. So this is a quite unique spectrum of stakeholders with multiple products, obviously accessible. We have prescription drugs, we have OTC, of course, and dermocosmetics, which we are going to talk about, and maybe start with this because Nuria and Eric, maybe to kick off this panel discussion, we would love to know how the COVID has impacted, from your point of view, the health industry, and maybe which major evolution you've been observing over these past 2 years.
Thank you, Thibault, for your invitation, and thank you for this first question. So I can confirm that this incredible pandemic has a huge impact, and this pandemic has definitively changed the way of our consumers buy and consume and use and our products. We have seen three main changes. The first one is the fact that health has become a major concern. In our dermocosmetic market, we have beauty and health. And due to the pandemic, health is becoming more and more important for our consumers. The second big change is the fact that we have seen an explosion of the digital and online channel, meaning more and more comments, more and more digital media, more and more e-sales. And this is a really a new trend. We used to have that on our dermocosmetic segment, of course, but today it has become really bigger. And today we know that during the pandemic, some people started for the first time buying dermocosmetic products in online. And today it's just a normal for them to buy products on the e-sales channel. And also one thing regarding digital is the fact that the social media purchasing approach, which was not very important everywhere around the world, it's now just a is the fact that due to the pandemic, the people is looking for companies with a strong purpose. They buy products, but not only products. They want to be committed also when they buy these health products, the dermocosmetic products. So they ask a lot of questions about the purpose of the company, etc. So yes, really, I definitely said that we have a new way of consuming products, more health, more digital, and more purpose. This is something that we can confirm in our dermocosmetic market.
Thank you, Nuria. Eric, from your point of view, what would you say about this?
At first, hello everybody, and thank you to be there. What I want to say is that COVID has been an accelerator for our industry. And what is interesting is that suddenly people discover that they do not want to go to the hospital because it was the biggest chance to get the virus. And so they discover that inside their home, they have no way to make measurements and to be followed by their doctor remotely. And so it's very interesting because what we have seen is that all this remote care, which was pushed by some doctors, but really put in the last priority, became in first priority just because to save the hospital, it was very important to be sure that we can follow the biggest number of patients remotely from their home before they go to the hospital. And what we have seen from that, it has really changed the way all the healthcare industry is really now considering the way we will be followed by the healthcare industry tomorrow. Until now, when we look at the industry, more than 50% of, around 45 to 50% of the patients are suffering from chronic disease, and 70% of the costs are coming from chronic disease. But how do you follow a chronic disease when you are in the healthcare industry? Mainly, it's a visit at your doctor during 10 minutes every 6 months, which is totally stupid to help you in your daily life. And so now, step after step, the industry discovers that if you want to follow what is costing the most in the health industry, you have to follow this patient during the daily life. And to follow them during the daily life, you need to get data. And it's interesting because I will come back perhaps in the next question on that. It's exactly what we have seen in the different disruption in the other industry.
Thank you, Eric. We can tell you have a lot to tell us in the change of this industry and make comparisons maybe with some other you've seen in the past. Maybe Matthieu and Benjamin, from your point of view in the pharma companies, how has COVID reshaped the organization?
So I'm happy to go first, Benjamin. So hi everyone, and thanks for the invitation. So if I think about COVID, if we look at COVID has been really the catalyst for the transformation in the digital space, in the pharma space. And what we've seen is the way we engage with our customers, whether it's doctors, physicians, nurses, whether it's patients or policymakers, has largely changed. And just to give you maybe some statistics coming from Viva, which is a CRM provider of the industry, they've seen that the pivot to digital. So, for example, the number of emails exchanged between pharma space and doctors have been multiplied by 5. The sales reps visits has moved from pretty much 100% face-to-face into largely remote, like webinars and webcasts. And so I think the pharma companies have had to reinvent themselves to be able to cope with this new demand. And so we've seen, I would say, that digital has moved from being a nice to have largely in the industry to becoming something very central. And most of the pharma companies have invested largely in that space. And I would say in probably 3 areas. One is around the tool set, one is around the skill set, and one is around the mindset. So for me, those are the 3 pillars to the transformation. How can we bring the right tools to engage with those new channels, to leverage data and channels? 2, how can we upskill our people in the companies to better understand the power of digital and better leverage this new opportunities? And also the mindset. It's good to have the know-how, but it's also about bringing the full company on board with this modernization of the way we engage customers.
Thank you, Matthieu.
Benjamin, you want to?
Yeah, thank you for this great perspective, Benjamin. Tools, also skills and mindset.
Yes, thanks for the invitation. So I think Matthieu said that it was a catalyst. Of course, it was a catalyst, but I would even go further. I think it's clearly an eye opener when it comes to change management and making sure that everybody understood that data is not only, and data analytics function is not only a supporting function that it used to be in the past, right? To be able to monitor interaction, to be able to build reports, to be able to provide insights, into a supporting business function and a real business partner when it comes to reinventing the new engagement of tomorrow. Of course, we experienced a lot of lockdowns. Of course, the way of working has changed. And of course, data is going to play a key role in this change when it comes to moving away from quantity in terms of face-to-face visits towards quality and contextualized interaction, where basically data is seen as a toolkit to optimize face-to-face visits that of course needs to be even more impactful moving forward. So an eye-opener, a change when it comes to data analytics organizations in the companies. Absolutely, I cannot agree more.
Thank you, Benjamin, for this great transition. Talking about data and the challenges of collecting data in the health space, maybe we could now listen to you, Nuria, about how you see the value exchange, because people want to know what you have to offer for their data.
Yeah, very, very tricky question. Not easy to really let's see how we could improve the situation right now. It's true that today the data collection it's a key. It's key for us and for our future, and it depends really in our dermocosmetic market on the maturity of the country regarding e-commerce and digital. In the countries where we have already a strong e-commerce and digital activities, which is the case in China or in the US or in some European countries, of course, it's easier to get this information. And the other countries where the digital e-commerce is still not very important, it's the case in some European countries for the dermocosmetic market. In France, for example, the dermocosmetic market, the e-sales, it's only 5% of the global market, which means it's not a lot. So it's true that the situation is very different depending on the maturity. The more digitalized the country, the easier and faster access to data we have. That's why we have followed the same path than I think it was Matthieu mentioned just before. We have implemented tools to help people to have the data and to collect the data and to put it in one unique tool. We have upskilled people. We are training people to know how to manage this data, and we, of course, are trying to control the fact that the mindset has changed. Data must help us to predict the future. Data must help us to understand which are the needs of our future consumers. Just to give you an example, our objective in dermocosmetic is always to bring in a new product which is, let's say, more innovative than the previous one. When we renew a range that we already have, in the past, we used to just take the current product and to see what we could improve. Today, we don't manage like that. We analyze all the consumer data which is available, meaning the rating reviews, but also the lots of comments that we have in different websites. And then we, thanks to this global consumer data, we can see which are the positive attributes, the negative attributes that we have in our current product, and then we share with our R&D to, let's say, imagine the product of the future. And thanks to that, we can, we are convinced about that. We'll be sure that tomorrow we will go faster to the market, we will have less failure R&D projects, and we will be closer to the consumer when we launch the product. So the situation, it's not easy, and really all depends on the people, on the countries, but we are going faster and faster. And we all know that data will help us tomorrow to better manage our business and to better innovate, of course.
Thank you, Nuria, for this global perspective. Eric, were you at the CES this year to present the Withings products?
Oh, I was not personally, but our team was there. Just to give some more things on this question, I think it's important to make some history and to come back to what happened when Steve Jobs announced the iPhone. You remember that Nokia was the king of the smartphone at that time, and Nokia disappeared in this field. And you know the position of Apple and Google. And what is interesting is that this type of disruption, which started by telecom, is coming in all the industry. It's coming in the car industry, it's coming in the financial industry, and it's coming also in the health industry. And what is the disruption? This disruption is that the user is the one who is making the disruption. The disruption is not coming from the professional. The disruption is not coming from all the guys who are supposed to do the disruption. The disruption is coming from the user request. And it's where it's answer to your question. What do you offer for my data? What we discover just by hazardous, because it was not our project at the beginning of Withings, we discover that people having a curve of their weight or a curve of their blood pressure monitor in their pocket was changing their life. And we have been very impressed by that, because nobody has a weight or blood pressure problem in our company. And so we discover that just not only showing a number, but being able to offer the way to follow day after day during years this type of very important data for everybody has changed the life of people. And from that, we see what is going on in any in the industry which is disrupted by data and numeric, is that at first these data are important to help the user to get feedback from his data, to get new application, to get a new type of service and so on. But there is a second field which is very important, is that it will increase the way the company which is getting this data, so for example, Withings in this case, to disrupt and to get new type of information to prepare the next step. Just 2 examples on that. For example, we have a sleep analyzer that we put under the mattress, which is following the heart rate and the respiratory rate. And from that, we have been able to qualify a new algorithm by deep learning, which is to detect apnea episode, and which is clinically validated. And it's very interesting because it's creating a lot of interest from the end user. And even if it is clinically validated, we have a lot of difficulty to make the professional adopted it, because they have considered that for years and years, you need to be connected to the body to detect apnea episode. Another example, now just by stepping on a scale, it's what we announced at the CES this year, you will be able to get neuropathy measurements and pulse wave velocity, which is arterial stiffness, just by stepping on the scale. And this is type of measurement that probably around 5% of the cardiologists are able to do, or the neuropaths are able to do. And we offer that just by stepping on the scale to any user which is paying around 200 euros. And what we have seen from that is that 2 weeks after we launch the product, suddenly we have the biggest database for this type of measurements, for example, that we have done on pulse velocity 6 years ago. And now it's not the cardiologists who are helping us to get new information from this data. It's us who is pushing the cardiologists to look at this data and to say, hey, guys, there is something which is very strange in this data. Can you help us to identify what it is? And so we can create new type of biomarker to that. So just to conclude on that, value of data is very important because at first there is instantaneously a value for the end user, but there is a very large value for the company, which will be able to push quicker than any other company new type of biomarker, which will get new value for the end user.
Thank you both for your insight on the value exchange that are really enlightening. And this topic is at the heart of consumers' expectation. This is what a study by McKinsey recently highlighted. Around 75% of consumers want to use digital tools like devices to monitor health metrics or solutions to book appointments online with their practitioners. Maybe among these digital tools, let's focus on IoT and online pharmacies. Matthieu, Eric, what are your views on their role in this ecosystem, and more specifically in the opportunities they offer thanks to data usage?
So maybe I'll start, Eric, if you don't mind. And maybe I'll look at that from probably 3 aspects. One is from a customer perspective. I will look at that also from a regulation perspective. And third, I'll talk about like the new players in that space, before transitioning to you, Eric. So I would say from a customer perspective, I think it's clear that patients are our consumer and they're expecting more on their healthcare space. They want to have access to information. They want to be able to manage their own data. They've, largely transitioned to telehealth. And you may have seen some statistics about the fact that telehealth has grown 40x. So has been multiplied by 40 times, this year versus the, pre-COVID baseline. So clear shift in patients as consumers. So doctors, physicians, nurses are also asking for a, totally different, type of information and engagement. So, from a customer perspective, it's clearly changing. I think if we look at that from a regulation perspective, you've all seen, big shift in regulations around privacy. You've all seen GDPR coming. And you've also seen things like iOS, so Apple has decided to change, the way data is being shared. So this is not driven by regulators, it's driven by a strong player in the market space. So clearly the world around us is changing from a privacy. And lastly, I want to talk about the new players. So I'm sure you've all read what Tim Cook from Apple said. He said that Apple's greatest contribution to mankind would be health. And you've seen, how they're investing in their health ecosystem, how the Apple Watch is playing a central place. Of course, Eric, I'm sure you'll talk about the importance of that and from a Withings perspective. But I think here we're seeing a clear shift of new entrants in the digital space that come and bring new set of data that help people better manage their health and provide, a improved patient experience that drives better clinician experience, which drives better health outcome and ultimately results in lower cost of care. So for me, this landscape is clearly changing.
Yes, fully agree, Matthieu. And I think the example that we can give also is if you look at what the GAFA are doing, Apple for sure, but also Google and Amazon, all of them are now investing in hardware to be present inside the home and to get data from the home. You cannot do anything in the future if you are not getting data. And so getting data, it's a big effort. You need to push a product. You need to be sure that this product will be used for a long time. And when I'm speaking to my investors, the first slide I am showing is the duration of usage of our product in front of the user, which is 3 years for 65% of our user, which is very high compared to all the competition, which is more 6 months after 60% after 6 months. And so what we see is that you need to get data. And from that, you give back the power to the end user and so to the patient. And then all the industry will have to move around that. And what we see, for example, in the US, it's already moving. You have seen, for example, this new type of CPT code where doctors are reimbursed when they are following a patient with chronic disease if they get more than 16 data per month. Just by getting 16 data per month, 16 measurements per month from a patient which was a chronic disease, the doctors will get around $70 more for this patient, which is incredible. So just to show that it is important for all the industry to get this data.
Thank you so much, both of you, for your insights on this key question of data. So data is everywhere and growing. Maybe Estelle, you can tell us a little bit about what to do with data and how can we manage customer journeys.
Yes, definitely. Thank you, Thibault. Yes, we have seen that since the pandemic, the approach that has been implementing right now in the healthcare industry has shifted from a multi-channel approach to an omnichannel approach. What does it mean, omnichannel? So omnichannel marketing consists of really employing simultaneously orchestration of different channels. So it could be digital channels such as email, SMS, WhatsApp, media as well, but also physical channels that could be traditional in the pharma industry, such as face-to-face visits, the drugstores, of course, and so on, and the call center. And the idea here is to make sure that we can coordinate all of the channels and deliver a consistent messages to the patients or to the HCPs, to the pharmacists, to the end customers. So this is really a challenge that all the healthcare industry is facing today. And I have one question for you, Matthieu, Benjamin, and Nuria. Do you think that the patient journey, the omnichannel one, is it a dream or a reality? And how do you measure, and can we measure it?
So if I go first, I'll be quick. I think we're all striving towards a true omnichannel. And we're all investing in that space. the questions about how do we measure, I would say first I would say, we live in a highly regulated industry, and it's somehow country specific. So we have to adapt, on a kind of on a country by country basis. Two, I would say it's hard to measure true outcome, health outcome. I think we tend to measure a lot on outputs, and I think we need to go a step beyond that. And for that, we need to invest in new skills and new technology. And I'm very confident that with new technologies, with new data, we're moving from data into insights so we can really make decisions. And maybe the last thing I would say before transitioning is, I think it's also about a test and learn mentality. I think we're not going to get it right every time, but if we have this mindset of testing things, learning from these experimentations and applying those learnings, I think we're growing and providing more and more value.
No, absolutely. Building on what you just said, Matthieu, I think in the past, as mentioned also, we were very good at doing multi-channel analysis, basically. So we are analyzing the performance of each channel independently, right? And not combining those channels into a journey, so an orchestrated and harmonized customer experience, driving higher outcomes. And then what is the outcomes that we need to measure? How does a good customer journey look like? What are the different metrics that we're going to use to sum up the different influence of each channels towards something that is consistent? So that's basically the challenge that we're working on at Janssen, but I believe that's the same in other pharma industry. We are trying to build new metrics around customer journey to define what is a good customer journey, and also what is going to be the impact of a good customer journey on patients, or engagements, or satisfaction, on basically competitiveness, and it's up to us to define those new KPI framework around competitiveness. But the ambition is clear here. The easier and the smoother the customer journey is, the higher the engagement, and therefore the higher the impact when it comes to informing HCPs around new therapeutic options for patients.
Thank you so much, Benjamin and Matthieu. Maybe Nuria, you have a comment here, because I know that journeys is a big part of the progress you've been making.
You are right, Thibaut, and I agree on everything you all said. We switched from the multi-channel to the omnichannel approach. Also in our dermocosmetic industry, today we know that the consumer is getting in contact with our product from the morning to the evening, during all the day. He buys the products when he wants, where we want, and it's very important to understand this consumer journey and to be ready in our company, to follow this consumer and to send to him the right message at the right moment, at the right place, at the right price, also for us. So to reach this objective in our company, and as you said, in all your companies, we launched one very, let's say, important program, transversal one, that concerns all the brands that we have in the dermocosmetics activities, but also all the countries. And the objective of this omnichannel program that we call One is to have one consumer and to discuss with him when he needs information coming from us, and also to send to him, as I said, the right message to the right at the right moment and at the right place. So we have launched this very important program, huge investment with tools, skills, but also change in the mindset. And we have also done a lot of pilots. The test and learn it's key for two reasons. First, because it's true that it's important when you are bringing this new way of working in your company, you need to see which is the perfect way to work in our dermocosmetics segment. And also it's key to convince our employees, all the countries. So we have done many different pilots depending on the brands, because we have more medical, more beauty brands. So we have mixed pilots in different regions and worldwide to really try to implement this program. Let's say that we started just before the pandemic in 2019. And thanks to the pandemic, I could say that the program just arrived at a good moment, and we are running now the program, let's say, in a quite smooth way, and all the countries are really on board. And today we have launched new campaigns thanks to this program, thanks to the data that we have collected. And just to give you an example, thanks to the data that we have collected during the last 2 years, we have launched some new campaigns to discuss with these consumers that today we know better than yesterday. And in some cases, we have increased the memorization of our brands by consumer by 45%. And why? Because we know better our consumer, we send to him the information that he wants to have, and then he is free to buy on or offline if he wants. So this is very important for our passion and consumer. And also in dermocosmetic, we are in contact with HCP. So we are also now launching this, last year we start to launch this MEM approach for our HCP. As you said, we used to get in contact with derms and physicians and pediatricians only in the face-to-face approach. And today we know that most of our HCP are digital native, but despite of that, they have no time to read all the emails that we send to them. So we need to better know them to be sure that when we send to them the right information, the information is the right one that they need. So we are putting in place some pilots in Spain, in Italy, in other countries to see how to develop this methodology, how to define the profiles of doctors, and depending on these profiles, and then to send to them the right information, and to be sure at the end that we are bringing to these doctors the good service. Because if we want to keep loyal our doctors, we need to bring to them this good service. So this kind of omnichannel programs for HCP, it's also key to bring to them the good service and also to help them to better take care of their patients. So it's really very, very interesting, very exciting for us and for our marketing and commercial teams.
Thank you, Nuria, so much. So talking about HCPs, I think we all need to remember the complexity of the care flow of everything that the patient goes through. Just looking at this graph here, we see that you have 4 main really stages: the pre-diagnosis, information gathering stage, and then comes the treatment evaluation by the patient, the first prescription fill, and then comes the treatment experience. So it's multi-stakeholder, it's multi-stage, and it's all very dynamic, right? Because, for instance, obviously, patients have now the ability to learn so much about their health and their condition and what they could need and what they could ask. So I think we have an unbelievable case for looking at the changing role of HCPs. And maybe, Benjamin, you want to give us your vision on this.
Yes, absolutely. I think the HCP is at the center of the engagement, right? So HCPs are basically informing us about what they like, about what they want to consume in terms of content, about the channel they want to be contacted through. So really, they are. I mean, we mentioned a lot Apple, so I have to come up with Amazon today, right? But we need to put an empty chair in every decision that we make that represent the HCP. And then understand, is it aligned with what an HCP would expect from us in terms of content, way of interacting. And the beauty of it is that since we are entering into much more data-driven marketing, every interaction with the HCP will be captured and then be used as a learning data, right, for further enhancement when it comes to optimizing the customer journey. So basically, the changing role of HCP, to answer the question, is really the actor of the new engagement that we're building, thanks to the different interactions that they are engaging with us.
I agree with Benjamin. It's true that in the dermocosmetic market, we are in contact with dermatologists, plastic surgeons, pediatricians. We used to get in contact with them not very often during the year, just to bring to them information about the latest product that we have launched. And today things have really changed because the consumer the patient is asking to them more information about the formulas, about the studies that we have. Not only the latest product is important. They want to know what is inside the product. Do you have this kind of ingredient, component inside the product? What kind of study they have done? Or are you sure on the safety? Is it really adapted to my skin because I have this kind of let's say request? And this information today, it's not easy to share with the doctor when you visit just once of each trimester. That's why the new Omnichannel approach with the HCP doctors that we are testing, doing pilots right now in some countries, we wanted to extend tomorrow because we are convinced that it will help to the HCP to better follow his passion, to better answer the questions that the consumer or patient has, and also to better follow the chronic disease and the chronic dermatologic disease that the patient has, and that's why he's using one of our products. So really the new, I think the HCP role today, it was just a prescriptor. It was more easier, not easier, but less continue. And today it's really changing a lot and bringing this kind of more contact between patient, doctor, and us.
Thank you so much. So data is exploding. Patients are data savvy. IoT is here to provide a lot of data. HCPs are changing because of this. The whole world is changing, and maybe there are a number of players we didn't even mention so far. We mentioned MarTech players a bit, at least the GAFAs. We mentioned some IoT partners that we can see here, and Withings being here on the panel. You have health apps also that Eric mentioned earlier, and also maybe a last type of players which I think we should mention also is the retailers. So the pharmacies are going online. Amazon and CVS are very pushy on this. In Europe, Shop Apotheke has some very interesting acceleration also. And this is key, because I think, Benjamin, you talked about the measurement and how to measure customer engagement. So I think we have a lot of potential topics here to better collaborate in the industry and to orchestrate this data collaboration, which is so key. I think Eric mentioned about industries changing because of the consumer and accepting to share data, and we also need to organize the data flows. So there's a huge work ahead probably to make it more efficient for everyone while protecting the data. And in many industries we could later talk about this, but we have clean rooms and a real revolution around data collaboration and second party data partnerships, which I think we should see very soon. But it's already time to talk about the future, and maybe Eric and Matthieu, you could elaborate a little bit on this notion of pills plus services. We all feel that in the complexity of this data journey, maybe this combination, and you mentioned, I think, Eric, the latest regulation in the US for that could be, I don't know if silver bullet is the right word, but at least a real acceleration for healthcare. What do you think of that?
On my side, I think things are moving, but it will still take some time to see the pharma, for example, changing the way they are thinking. Today, pharma is trying to sell tons of pills. I think tomorrow, a pharma will be in charge of following a patient with a specific disease. So he will be he will need to follow the results coming from the pills he is pushing. and so taking care of the data who are coming back from the daily life of the patient. So we will be on the service side. It's the first example. And the second example that we see, and we have some contact in US on that subject that you mentioned also, is that now there are a company like Walmart or Best Buy who are pure physical retailers, not pure, but main physical retailers, who are seeing a new type of opportunity, thanks to the fact that a lot of patients which are suffering from chronic disease never see doctors before they are really very ill. And so there is an opportunity for the healthcare system to have contact with these people, to help them to do prevention just by offering new type of service. And so we see that in the distribution, physical distribution in US, and I cannot give some names in France, but we see that it's moving also in France. So there is a new opportunity just because these people who are never seeing a doctor before they are really deeply ill are passing through these shops.
Thank you.
And
Matthieu, maybe?
So yeah, so I believe this notion of pill and services, which has been discussed for quite some time, is central. I believe that providing service to patients will improve the way they manage their disease, or with the way they manage their just health, their personal life, and would be beneficial for the overall healthcare system. And therefore, I believe that a combination of pill and services overall, provides value. And I think if we look at other industries, many other industries have looked at selling, their product, but also adding services to add their value proposition. And I think it's also true for healthcare. And so, I'm pretty convinced that moving forward we will see more partnerships happening to provide kind of a holistic approach to health, which is a combination of preventions and treatments, not only through pills but also through leveraging services around medical educations, around access to medications, around measuring, blood pressure and things like that, as you've mentioned, Eric. And that overall, this for me is a direction to travel that would bring value to everybody in the system, from patients to the healthcare systems, to the doctors, to the pharma company as well.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Matthieu, so much. Now we'd love to know a bit, Benjamin and Nuria, what is your vision of the future?
Vast topic, right? I can mention a few things. I think what we need to work even further is the differentiators. What make a Janssen interaction different from the competitors, right? So working on extending the number of channels, so working with new channels, second-party data, and reaching as well the content that we are building for sure, and working on privacies, because to me they are two sides of the same coins. Making sure that everything we do is compliant in terms of privacy and compliance, but also making sure that it's different, which is a challenge. That's one thing that I see, and of course the second main topic for us this year will be to test new things, right? For instance, how do we launch new products in a digital manner? How can we measure and compare those launches in different countries with different settings? So putting in place experimentation at scale, not only on just a POC, but at scale, and measuring the impact. I think that's what we have in front of us.
Thank you, Benjamin. Nuria?
Thank you, Thibault. So on my side, I would say that I see the future. I'm really confident on the future. I see consumer more and more committed with companies with a strong and unique purpose, and as Matthieu said, looking for a holistic approach of their health and beauty. And the second thing I see, it's as the last previous years, a very dynamic dermocosmetic market, growing in volume and value thanks to this consumer which is committed to us, but also thanks to the innovation. And to make it possible, this it's just in a vision, but to make it possible, of course, we have this data that we have already discussed. Thanks to this data, we will bring more innovative products closer to the needs of the consumer. And also, thanks to this data that we have, we will better give services to our HCP to help them to better take care of their patients. I really think, thanks to data, more innovation and more, let's say, purpose, but also more well-being around us.
More well-being. Thank you. We have so many questions, and we probably won't be able to answer them all. But Loic, can you take a first one?
Yes, Thibault, we have this question about the change in the industry, which is how the industry make the face-to-face visits more meaningful and continue to engage doctors and sales rep in remote. Who wants to answer this question? Maybe Nuria, Matthieu, or Benjamin?
Yeah, you want to go first?
Please go ahead, Matthieu.
So maybe what I'll say is, I mean, this is a complex topic. I think we've seen a shift, from the sales visit being mainly face-to-face into a mix of face-to-face and other channels. And I think the way to accompany this transformation comes with leveraging data to help make the next best action. So, there's technology called next best engagement, next best actions that will really help leverage data to make suggestions to the sales rep. Two, it's about investing in content to personalize the interactions. So being more relevant to the customers, and also make sure that this interactions that happens managed by a sales rep is also synergistic with the other interactions that may be coming from more digital channels, so that it doesn't seem disconnected, but it seems very connected. And the last thing I would say, it's a lot about people and change management and culture. So investing in upskilling people, investing in the cultural aspect is front and center.
No, agree. Just maybe in complement to what you say, Matthieu, totally aligned. I think people is always a key part of our organization, and the most important. What is a good face-to-face interaction? What is how do we define meaningful as well? I think we can fine-tune a bit the answer depending on the metrics that we're going to measure. Are we looking at the satisfaction of the HCP? Are we looking at the impact on our business? Are we looking at being competitive to others? I think it's always good to put the right framework when it comes to meaningful interaction, but clearly there is no silver bullet, right? There is no only one recipe to success. It's a combination of different channels, different interaction, different content being orchestrated in a personalized manner, I think, to the right HCP.
Go ahead, Nuria, please.
Sorry, Thibault. And yes, and I think today we have a lot of data to understand what drives our doctors, what drives his daily life practice. Some of them prefer innovative information, other only clinical testing, on other or on composition about our products. So we need to understand what kind of information do they want to use and to have and how to use it. And then thanks to that, to create and to send to him personalized content. And if we do that, I really think that then the doctor will have also a good feedback to our rep cells, our medical cell rep cells on the field. And thanks to that, I think we will be more, let's say, more efficient, because good content and good information for doctors, but also our sales reps will understand the process and will change step by step. And thanks to that, we will manage to combine face-to-face with remote and webinars and contact.
Thank you much, Nuria. Maybe Estelle, you want to ask our speakers another question we had.
Yes, we have a question from Monique for you, Nuria. So how do you think the pandemic has changed the relationship between dermatologists and patients?
I would say that, as I said just before, people is more and more concerned about health, and due to the pandemic, we had a lot of more stress, let's say. And as you all know, the skin is the first part where we reflect our stress. We have seen, for example, markets like psoriasis, atopic dermatitis, dandruff, anti-dandruff, which have boom between 20 and 21. We have more than double this kind of requests in our websites, and we have more and more prescription and more sales. So it's true that today people is more suffering more about their skin, and today they are asking more and more information to their doctors. And as I said, they ask about the latest product, the composition of the product. This is today one topic that we have on the table. The consumer has a lot of information on how we produce and which ingredients do they like and the ones they don't like. So we need to bring this kind of information to the doctors, because sometimes the patient come back to the doctor and tell to him, you prescribe this product, but I don't like because there is this kind of ingredient inside. So we need to really be more clear and to give more information about the composition, and of course also the efficiency. So yes, more requests coming from patients to the doctors regarding the products that they prescribe in dermocosmetics.
Thank you, Nuria. Another question, maybe Benjamin, for you. Someone says, my question is related to the omnichannel approach, how to implement it in markets with low promotional budgets. How do you do that?
Good question. I don't think it's a matter of budget, because I think we can already do a lot of things with the right combination of channels. I would encourage to try to do experimentations, to understand, what drives the higher engagement, and then to focus on the HCPs that are likely to interact with the right channels to minimize the investments on those channels. So I would start with an experimentation and then scale up based on a channel affinity or those kind of analysis that we can do.
And maybe if I can chime in here, I would say there's also a question about what are the activities that you want to be done by a market locally, and what can be centralized and managed either at a cluster, a region, or a global level. And I believe that for some of those markets that have maybe limited capacity, exploring ways to centralize more some of the activities so they can focus on customer insights, market-specific needs, and really leverage some highly efficient machine that can really deliver some of their campaigns, so they don't have to manage that locally is probably also something that's worth exploring.
Great. Thank you, both of you. Maybe one last question, Eric and Nuria. Tell us a bit about artificial intelligence, because I think we've been talking a lot about new sources of data, about the willingness of the consumer to collaborate by bringing data. But what about AI, and is there a real need and potential for new hires in this space with data science skills?
Yes, I think it's an important question. On our side, what we see is that deep learning is already helping us a lot to build this new type of biomarkers. Example that I gave earlier about apnea episode is a good example. It's only feasible because thanks to deep learning. Another important subject is if we want to follow better the patients in the future, we have to understand that today the healthcare industry is making a very huge picture of our health when you go in a hospital. If you make an ERM or if you make a blood analysis, you have a very deep evaluation of what is getting in your body. But the healthcare industry is very poor to follow the patient on long duration. And what we know now is what is most important is not to have just a big picture on one day, is really to see the evolution. Evolution is more important than just the picture. And what we see is that from the data we are getting on the daily life from the patient during years and not only during months, we see a lot of information from which we can learn a lot to detect far in advance from what industry know how to do today, new type of disease which are coming. Just one example, what we see is that there are some new type of disease that you can detect just by seeing how the weight is evolving during years. And if you see a disruption during some days and coming back to the normal value, it's a sign of new type of disease. It's the same for arrhythmias that we can detect now with just a watch on the wrist like this, or just by the sleep analyzer. So what we see is that by following during years, we will learn a lot, and we have to invent a new way to learn from that thanks to the deep learning.
And in our dermocosmetic market, yes, I think that the AI will bring us a lot of input to help to better serve our patients and our consumers. As you know, in dermocosmetic, we try to do a lot of prevention. For example, we promote sun care products. You use sun care products during your holidays or during your daily life to prevent against skin cancer. You can use emollient to prevent the flare-up if you are suffering from eczema or psoriasis. So we have a lot of prevention approach in the dermocosmetics category or market. And this AI should help us more. It's already the case, but tomorrow she will bring us a better way to manage this prevention approach, which is key for the health, for the future, and for this holistic approach for the consumer. So yes, I think it's key for our future. Yeah.
Thank you so much, all of you, really. 1 hour is so short. I apologize for all of you who ask questions with no answers yet. You can add your first name in the question on the chat, and we'll make sure that we get one answer from one of those 4 amazing speakers. And it's time for me to thank you all, the 4 of you, really. We wish you a great year. I'm sure it's going to be fascinating because, look, you have so much data coming in, so many changes in your industry. So thank you for sharing some of your great ideas and vision. And let's talk to you very soon, each of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.